Proceeds continuing to support the East Lake Foundation, which has helped to transform what was one of the nation's most severely challenged public housing projects into a thriving community over the last 30 to 40 years. Property values up, crime rates down. East Lake, a blueprint for holistic redevelopment through purpose-built communities, now in New Orleans, Charlotte, Indianapolis, Kansas City, among other cities. The best in the world competing here, part of what they call the miracle of East Lake. It is one of the most successful neighborhood revitalization projects in recent American history. Atlanta real estate developer and philanthropist Tom Cousins saved Bobby Jones's home club from bankruptcy. There you see Tom on the left. Convinced 100 corporate partners to invest $200,000 each, not only for the privilege of playing an historic course, but as an investment in the future of this country. Tom called it golf for the purpose. He told me once he couldn't stand the thought of another lost generation, so he set out to create a community set around 3 pillars, and you can see the results here. The pillars are safe, affordable housing, health and wellness with a YMCA, a golf course, First Tee with mentoring programs, a grocery store, and above all, cradle to college education. And thrilled to be joined now by Ilham Askia. She is the CEO of the East Lake Foundation. So good to see you, Ilham.
Thank you for having me.
So let's take people back. 35, 40 years ago, what was the state of the East Lake community?
So 45 years ago, there was talent in East Lake. There were children who had a lot of talent. There were caring mothers and fathers who really wanted their children to excel, but they were in a place where crime was at an all-time high. It was not a great place to live, work, or play. Our graduation rates were less than 30%. We did not have adequate housing and affordable housing where people could thrive. And so East Lake was not the place to be about 35 years ago.
How does the private-public partnership work, and why has it proved to be such an effective model?
So we cannot do this work alone, right? And so for us, you know, Mr. Cousins, Mr. and Mrs. Cousins, Eva Davis, who was the president of the Tenant Association of East Lake Meadows, and Renee Glover, who was the president of the Atlanta Housing Authority, the architects of the vision came together. And Mr. Cousins, through all of his contacts and corporate contacts, said all people should deserve a quality place to thrive. So public-private partnerships are instrumental in the success that happened 35 years ago and continues to be important as we continue this work in East Lake.
What goes into the holistic approach?
So the holistic approach, like you said before, is mixed income housing, quality education, cradle through college education, economic development, and community wellness. The ecosystem of partners, Drew Charter School, the East Lake Family YMCA, Columbia Residential, our property management team, we have to come together as one to make sure that East Lake thrives.
We saw some of the numbers, though. I want you to brag on the Drew Charter School.
Oh, I'm going to brag on Drew. I'm going to brag on Drew.
I've been there, and you know, it just blows you away. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the great successes you've had, and why do you think it's been so successful?
So I think, you know, Drew Charter School is the only certified STEAM school in the state of Georgia. We are the first science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Our graduation rate has not fallen below 96% over our history for the high school level. The why it's successful is we don't just address the child in terms of their educational needs. We look at the whole child. Do they have a safe place to walk to school? Do they have quality housing? Do they have all the supports? And so collectively, all of us together is why Drew has been such a success.
What are their hours?
Mm-hmm.
What about uniforms? Mm-hmm. What's the impact of all of
So
that?
our children are in school. Sometimes they're as early as 8, sometimes 7:30, all the way to 4:30 in the afternoon. Then they have all of their after school and academic support programs. So for us, it's not just going to school from 8 to 4. It's what's happening while you're in school. Uniforms, we don't want a barrier. We want everyone to be treated the same in terms of equity and provide equity. So we are a uniform school. And it's worked.
And
it works.
You're outperforming
everybody. No.
Even the schools from neighborhoods where the children might come from gated communities and so forth.
Drew is doing exceptionally well, and it's the reason, the magic sauce, the secret sauce is because we start early when they're 6 weeks old and we take them all the way through high school.
How is golf playing a role?
Golf, as the Eastlake Golf Club says, is golf with a purpose. Mr. Cousins said that years ago when he started this vision is we could not do this work without golf. We could not do this without Tour Championship and all the committed people here.
What's the legacy of Tom Cousins?
Mr. Cousins and his family continue. We are now in the third generation of the Cousins family and their commitment, their promise to the children of Eastlake, and it will continue. So Mr. Cousins has been he put his commitment, his time, his energy, and he kept to that promise, and he's still keeping to that promise.
Lastly, what's the lesson in all this that you'd like our audience maybe to take away?
So for us, really, it's not what can be done to the community, it's what can be done with the community. Resident voice is important. The reason we are successful is because the residents come first in all that we do.
Ilya, congratulations on all that you do.
Thank you.
We wish you nothing but the best going forward.
Thank you so much.
Ilham Askia, CEO of the Eastlake Foundation, said one resident, "We tore down hell and we built heaven."